This world shall know pain.
Mystic sat in the middle of a dense fog, the stench of blood all around her. Her village was utterly destroyed during the war with Kelvion. She lost everything. She thought she would die in that desolate place. When a foreign-looking stranger came up to her, he said that underneath her calm and peaceful appearance, she had a potential for great power. The stranger would later become Mystic's master and source of new purpose in life. The master said that he could help Mystic grow into her potential and that she should go with him to the Far East. She had nothing left of her home, so she left behind her desolate hometown and followed the master to a foreign land, where she began anew. Striker was also caught up in the Kelvion War. The Striker and his parents left Kelvion to escape the now desolate land. They boarded a ship that stank foul when they boarded. Striker and his parents were unwelcome nobles from Kelvion met with glaring eyes. When the ship had finally reached an unknown destination, all that was left was the Striker. His parents did not make the trip. Meanwhile, the Mystic and her master made it to the Far East and started to train. However, this new life was not easy for the Mystic. The people in the East were wary of the Mystic because of her golden hair and blue eyes. Her master was the only one who would willingly talk to her, and all her master did was instruct her in tedious martial arts moves. As she grew stronger and mastered the martial arts, the locals started to become jealous of her. She felt even more isolated. During this time, the master went for a walk. The Striker was now in a land filled with people with black hair as dark as their eyes. He would begin to feel like an outsider. Striker was a weak boy who had nothing, and the only way for him to survive in this new land was to pick and scavenge through the garbage in the market streets to find food to keep him alive. With luck, the Striker ran into the master that had been training the Mystic with sheer luck. The master would offer his hand to the boy Striker and lead him back to where the Mystic girl was being trained. The Mystic looked at the young man and saw that he too had golden hair and blue eyes just like her. The Mystic never imagined to see someone who looked like her, so far away from home. She was surprised and curious about the familiar-looking boy from her homeland, and soon her head was filled with thoughts of him as they trained and learned together. Soon the Striker became the Mystic's everything. The Striker and the Mystic grew more comfortable living in a foreign land now that they were brought together. The Striker would one day enter a grand tournament. This was the only shot for an outsider and a brawler like himself to earn a fair title in these lands. The Striker would climb the brackets to the final fight, where he would be faced with the one called the Martial God. The Mystic wished to tell the Striker how she felt, but knew she could not obscure his focus. The Striker fought and won over the Martial God in the whole tournament and won the champion title, and was granted a chance to join the Western Frontiers, which was a top guild made up of renowned martial artists. The Mystic congratulated the Striker in his win over the tournament. The Striker thought to himself that winning this tournament would have the people of the Far East accept him, but he was wrong. His discrimination of being a blue-eyed foreigner had already received enough negative attention, so then the Striker met with the Master to get his opinion on what he should do. The Master made the suggestion that he should head back west to discover his roots, the place of his birth. The Striker accepted this suggestion and went off to board a ship to discover a journey that would make the ordinary out of an extraordinary life. The Mystic wanted to tell the Striker how she felt, but before she knew it, and without the Striker even telling her, he was leaving. He was gone without saying a word to her. The Mystic would begin to feel lonesome now more than ever. She found herself looking towards the sea, missing him every day that he was gone. Plagued by the thought of never seeing him again, she made the decision to also head west. She left a note for her master and began her journey back home to the place of sad memories. However, she knew that she was going on a journey to be reunited with the Striker. The Striker would arrive on the continent of Kelvion to discover his home was not the way he remembered it. It was vibrant and prospering. He would remember what his master taught him, the ways of the tiger, panther, snake, monkey, and crane styles. He remembered his master saying that there was no more he could teach him. The Striker felt he had hit a barrier. The striker thought to himself if he could discover the times of metal and fire, where the strong survived against the brutal world, would he be able to surpass his limitations? This question haunted him through the lonesome voyage of the sea. His worries to find his roots soon melted away as he spent his days amongst other crowds of blue eyes and golden hairs. This was when another desire rose in the striker, the desire to reach the ultimate realm of martial arts. The striker felt he needed to be the one and true master of fighting. Overcome with this new desire, he traveled to southern Calpheon and settled down to begin his training and meditation right away. 3 years would pass of him learning about the birds and brutes of Calpheon and trying to imitate their behaviors and motions. This is when he felt enlightened by an unknown force. He wanted to embrace this newly found energy, resembling that of Mother Nature, but this started to conflict with all the other energies he once attained from his years with his master. He would then continue to train for another 6 years. His breathing had changed completely, and was letting energy of nature flow naturally within his entire being. The concept sounded simple to the striker, but putting it into action was a different story. Years of old habits would make using his lungs at 100% maximum difficult, and made it hard to tell if he was actually grasping such energy from Mother Nature. But then he finally did it. He mastered breathing, a feat no other human being has done. He soon felt the fusion of explosive energy building up inside, harmonizing. Another 9 years had passed. His results were beyond expectations. Throughout the years of his training, his hair turned white, but because of this training, his hair would regain his golden hue. The mastering of Mother Nature knew no limits. His movements flowing ever so naturally was formed into a pure martial art. He had now reached a new realm of fighting. The striker felt nothing could stand in his way. He would go on to neglect his master's teachings, that he should always take a step back to look around. Overwhelmed by his newfound energy, he started to lose control. The energies that he thought once were fusing were beginning to cover up each other, colliding in a wild vortex. The striker felt trapped between the energies, both old and new. He felt hopeless and defeated by not being able to control this newfound power. The striker then would remember his promise to his master from all those years ago. They had promised to meet again in Goma Naru around this time in their lives. Striker would then set out to meet his master, but yet the striker would say, "Put my arrogance behind, receive the teachings of the master again. The great master will see right through me and give me a solution." Little did the striker know he would never be able to meet his master again. This concludes the journey of Striker's awakening. Meanwhile, the mystic was also undergoing her own awakening. The mystic set sail back to the west. On her trip back, she saw 3 strange and enormous trees floating in the middle of the ocean. She thought maybe they were mirages caused by the thick fog over the ocean. But one of the men on the boat seen this too. He adjusted his hat, then started telling those aboard a story that had spread across the world. It was a story about the beginning of time, when 3 dragons created the world. The golden dragon flew to the skies and above and embroidered the stars. The night dragon governed the earth, and together with the water dragon, Banha, created a paradise on earth. When these 3 dragons appear above the ocean, it is an omen of great or terrible events. As the story was coming to an end, the boat hit a boulder and sank. The mystic thought to herself that this was divine punishment for abandoning her master. She felt alone while desperately looking for land, but there was nothing in sight. She let out a final breath. Numb, she let herself sink into the dark waters, ready to die. As she was sinking deep into the ocean, a strong pulse of dark blue light blinded her. The light grew stronger and stronger, and her senses soon returned. The source of the light was a dull gem that she was carrying with her. She had received this gem on the same day she left for the east. She remembered holding her master's hand when a passerby slipped the gem into her other hand. She thought to herself it was an ordinary blue stone, but was wrong. The stone gave out such a bright blue light that she was able to see around the pitch dark ocean around her. She grew curious and wondered who was the person that gave her this stone and why was it given to her. As she was floating deep in the ocean, she felt like she was rediscovering herself and found that the person who had slipped her the stone was Banha, one of the 3 dragons who created the world. She felt Banha's aura going through her. She had never felt so clear-headed. The mystic closed her eyes and could suddenly hear Banha telling a story. When Banha's story ended, she felt her breathing normalized, and it felt as if her memories were being submerged underwater. When she opened her eyes again, the mystic was on a seashore somewhere. Although the mystic lost her memories, she could somehow still feel the cold aura of Banha within her. The mystic would travel to the nearest town to rest. After a long while, she finally regained her memories and remembered that she traveled from the east to the west in search of a golden-haired boy. She would also come to remember the last thing Banha said to her when she was in the ocean. The blue eyes connected by fate will meet again in Banha's tears.